If you want to understand how the world works, you go to a comedian. That is what my friend David Wood said in his latest video about how Dave Chappelle predicted all of this Roe v. Wade insanity years ago. Which leads us to today's video. In his latest special, comedian and podcast host Andrew Shulz tackled this controversial topic. And in it, he made some thought-provoking and polarizing statements that were funny, but also a lot closer to reality than many of us would suspect. So in this video, I'll be reacting to Andrew Schultz's new trailer, tying it into something another famous influencer said, and bringing it all to life with a case that may shock you.
Ruslan.
Okay, on this video, I have to give you guys a free warning. Make sure you
had your wife.
Explicit.
This video is explicit.
Explicit.
Heads up, fair warning if you have little ones around. Also, if you're here, make sure you smash that like button so we can get all the love and the algorithm that we can get. Now, this is not Andrew Schulz endorsing the pro-life position. I want to be clear about that. I'm not going to play the entire clip, but the entire clip, he's a comedian. However, I do think that there's something really interesting about his perspective, and I wanted to highlight it for you guys. So there it is. There's going to be profanity, hide your kids, hide your wife, and then I'm going to show you guys what he says and how it's not that far off from what some people believe, and then we're going to give you guys a real life example of this. So I'm just going to play a few minutes of it, and then we'll get to the point. All right, check this out.
When you say that men should have no say in the decisions you make with your bodies, those are your decisions to make and yours alone. And I feel that way because at the end of the day, when we all go up to heaven and God's like, why were y'all killing babies? We're gonna be like, y'all. I think they were very clear whose decision this was, God. Looks like you need to pay for your sins, babe. Come on, y'all. Chivalry ain't dead till that baby is. You know the rules. Man.
He's going in, but he says something that we're going to get to in just a moment. And again, watch till the very end. That is going to be really interesting.
When I was living in my old place in New York, I lived down the block from an abortion clinic. And location. People come to New York and they go to like Broadway plays and shit. They'll literally spend thousands of dollars to watch Harry Potter the musical when they could just stand outside the clinic and watch something really disappear.
This man's wild, yo.
Fetus deleters. I remember one time I was walking by the clinic and I saw a father and his daughter outside, and his daughter looked like she was 10 years old. Now, I don't want to divide the crowd politically here, but for me, that's a little late. This is just me. I'm not putting my views on you, but personally, I think a fetus becomes a life around the 3rd grade. I think that's a life. I do believe that's a life, okay? Maybe we could roll it back a few years from there, but definitely if you could spell abortion, we don't abort you. That's just the rule that I have.
So he makes this statement, I believe a fetus becomes a life at 3 years old, right? He says that's a little late for me. He's toying with this idea of post-birth kids. Now, that may sound outlandish. Who would be okay with this? Who would be okay with this preposterous notion of deleting children after they've already arrived? It's so outlandish for him to say this is a comedian. He's a comedian, he's being funny. However, this isn't that far off the realm of possibility. There's a gentleman, I've been watching a lot of his content. His name is Young Don. He has a bigger channel where it's all animation, and he's been going extremely hard on this discussion. He grew up a Christian, and he's seemingly coming back to the faith. Now, here's the thing. This is going to be explicit, and his content is explicit. However, he has been going very hard on this discussion, and he highlights a creator, very famous creator, who is actually for this in real life. It's not a joke. It's not a comedian. So here you have Andrew Schulz, who's a comedian, echoing something that a real person believes in. And then I'm going to make it even come more alive for you of something that happened within the last decade that'll blow your mind. But you got to wait for it towards the end. Here's Young Don's second channel. Again, his main channel is an animation channel. This is his second channel. Shows something from another creator named Hassan. That sounds outlandish on the title. Hassan endorses after birth. You guys know the rest. So listen to what happens in this stream, okay? So this is a reaction of a reaction of a reaction. There's a lot of, it's like we're in, it's like YouTube Inception. Okay.
You have to have a conversation about the second trimester or the third trimester is such a silly one. And it's one that is like conservative always lock you into, okay? Don't have this conversation.
So it sounds to me like you're saying you do support eliminating abortion as an option after the first trimester.
I do. I agree.
The reason why it's a good conversation to have, because it allows the person who's pro-choice to see how illogical they are in their point of view. If you're not okay with a second trimester or a third trimester, why is it that you're okay with a first trimester? Because in a second and third trimester, they look like a more developed human? Then why isn't it okay to kill an infant, when they don't look like an adult? If the argument is just that, oh, they're not developed enough,
And again, guys, Young Don has been going extremely hard on this conversation. If you guys want to hear a bit more raw of a perspective, he's debating other YouTubers on this. He pulls no punches, and it is explicit. Okay, but listen to where we get to. This is going to blow your mind.
draw the line, and for what reason?
Okay.
No reason to agree with that. Again, never concede to one of these fucking freaks, okay? Don't do it. Don't concede to them. Be like, no, I actually think abortions are valid, even post-birth. I think you should.
Do I need to run that one back for you again?
Be like, no, I actually think abortions are valid, even post-birth. I think you should.
I believe that abortion should be valid even post-birth.
You guys could go watch Young Don's reaction to this whole thing. It's a reaction to a David Crowder of a reaction. And so here you have Hassan, who's a massive, massive voice on the progressive left side, fighting for LGBTQ trans rights, fighting for pro-choice. And he is coming out and openly saying, I think it should be allowed even post-birth. Andrew Shulz is toying with the idea of 10-year-olds, that's way too far to delete a 10-year-old. Hassan says he has no problem with post-birth. Now, you're probably thinking, who would actually be doing this? Haha. Funny you ask. There was a doctor named Kermit Gosnell who, in the year 2011, was arrested. Now, you're wondering, what was he arrested for? Ah, I never thought you would ask. He was arrested in 2011, first of all, for the third-degree deletion charge against a woman, a 90-pound woman who he gave a lethal dose of anesthesia, but then he was charged with 7 other deletions. I'm using the word deletion so we don't get this stream demonetized and deleted. 7 other charges are all of first-degree deletions. They relate to babies whom staff have testified they saw move or cry after complete birth, and whose deaths are alleged to have resulted from subsequent lethal action. They arise because of the born alive rule principle of common law, which stipulates that by default, for legal purposes, personhood arises, and therefore unlawful deletion, or the M word, becomes possible immediately upon the victim being born alive. Okay, so this is, you can't do this to a person, okay? So what happened? Stephen Masaf, a clinic employee who pled guilty to similar charges in 2011, testified that he, Masaf, had snipped the spines of more than 100 infants after they had been born alive. And that this was considered standard procedure at the clinic. A number of other employees had also testified to the same point. No physical evidence exists for 5 of the 7 cases. Charges are based on staff testimony. So 2 of the cases actually had physical evidence. Photograph exists of the 6th who allegedly had a something age of 30 weeks, and the physical remains were obtained of the 7th. Okay, so this person went to trial for this. He was sentenced, and you guys could Google this doctor, Kermit Gosnell. And these were, quote unquote, standard procedures. So all you guys that are like, yeah, you know, like the soft pro-choice position, you don't understand, it's a good mother's health. Okay, here you have babies that didn't finish the procedure of the termination, breathing and crying and being terminated. Now, thankfully, this gentleman was tried, as he should have been, for the most wildest acts. That's the broader context of this. So you have Shulz, who's a comedian. Then you have Hassan Abai, I guess his name is Hassan Abai, coming out and openly telling you that he's okay with it post-birth. And then you have a doctor who's actually executing these sorts of things and went to jail for it. That those of you guys that are here, those of you guys that are listening, that you would be open enough to be independent in your thinking about this issue. And I will provide a resource to a great debate by someone that's been on this channel before, arguing for the pro-choice position, Brenda from God is Gray, versus Leela, I think her last name's Rose, who is one of the biggest activists in this. And I'll pin that up in the description. You guys can go watch that for yourself and just do the critical thinking and process the information for yourself. If you guys enjoyed this video, click one of these other videos over here where I talk about these same exact issues. I lay out my position. I'll see you over there. Peace.